In the bustling city of Shinjuku, a story in progress is written. Within the seams of buildings, of sidewalks and streets, hide trees. Each of them a world, their lives a journey of their own. In this city is a forest hidden in plain sight. A Liarsoft title of 2004 that, let's just say, is a name well and truly fitting for the story they tell here. On the surface, Forest is a tale of 5 people who have gotten wrapped up in phenomenons called riddles. Produced by the Forest, they appear to overwrite the rules of the world at will, from landing into the Mad Tea Party with the tip of a hat, to being shipwrecked in the laws of physics, or turning the solvers into pieces within a game-boardified Shinjuku. These 5 must solve these riddles, find a way to fight against and drive the Forest back. But what is it, this Forest, but a vague concept only serving to riddle both you and the cast to ponder about what's even happening? All the more so as ideas and even characters from classic literature like Alice in Wonderland, Narnia, Peter Pan and the like are thrown right into the mix. Well, the Forest doesn't like its secrets spelled out so blatantly. The prologue throws you straight out into sea and tempts you to try and reach for whatever you can to keep yourself afloat. And as you can guess, it isn't so simple, especially with the lack of bonds between the main cast. At best, they are complete strangers. At worst, disdainful acquaintances, from vastly different walks of life, harboring hidden pasts and worldviews brought together by the Forest's whims. Their incompatibilities make them a dysfunctional group. You have Kinosaki Akeru, a mysterious individual who gives the impression of knowing more than he lets on. One whose half-knowing, half-made-up words harbor suspicion and doubt. Mayuzumi is dragged into this mess against her wishes, biting back at others with harsh words and the world with actions. Nagatsuki and Amamori, though completely different personality-wise, are both elements of chaos. The first purely from her own energetic oddball personality that is more, free in her approach of looking at the riddle. And the latter, shy and antisocial. One whose emotions can more than likely get the better of her. The only one who even tries to get the team on the same page is Kadia, whose voice of reason and knowledgeable observations encourage the audience and group to navigate the potential depths of the Forest's manifestations. But when everyone is already disagreeable, is a bit disparaging. What's their history? How do they know each other? Why is this all even happening? Besides the basics, it's not important. Why not gleam into a conversation between a teacher and student? Or perhaps the lives of 2 aging cats as urbanization has shifted their way of life? As confusing as I'm making it sound, this isn't hyperbole. Forest's presentation all intentionally leans into this manner of befuddling you down to your core. The unconventional use of narration and dialogue within and outside the text box. The overlapping visuals and sound effects crying out a cacophony. A series of interludes strung together by non-sequiturs. Early on, it wants to settle within you. This is no ordinary tale by any regard. Straying away from storytelling and technical conventions to serve up a feeling of mystique with every line of prose and dialogue. Every choice and its consequences. Every element on screen has a feeling of purpose, whether or not you can immediately glean from it. The Forest won't wait for you to either. Instead, you grab onto what you can, all the while our main characters get swept into its will. The riddles aren't anything to scoff at, you see, at their core being creative puzzles with some sort of ambiguous intention or derivative. It's your job alone with the group speculation to put together the hints actively and retroactively coming your way, as the riddles continue to force the 5 to interact with the environment in ways they never would or even could before. All the while, a mysterious entity known as Black Alice sways and speaks over the story unfolding before us. But is she the one whose roots are planted in these trees? Or is she merely their pawn? How do you navigate the crowded streets of Shinjuku when a simple bump of shoulders can feel like a cannon being shot through your entire being? or venture through a flooded city with only its landmarks as islands. How would this even turn back to normal? Even with the help of these supernatural gifts bestowed upon them, it can seem that the only way to overcome such undefinable odds is through luck, and at times it can certainly feel that way, often leaving a riddle with an exclamation of, "That's it? So what?" After all, the real conflict only stemmed from a character going completely against their established personality for little rhyme or reason, which then led to a bizarre set of coincidences that just seemed to end. But was it really coincidence? There are certain aspects of this game that seem purely for aesthetic purposes. Lines thrown out with little meaning on the surface. A change in scenery for what may seem like no other reason than to drive away reasoning. Oh, that was an abrupt end. That was a bit uncharacteristic of them, are not rare feelings in the least. But the thing is, they are too out of left field. Too out of place to be something simply glossed over in the editing process. So to find the answer, Akeru chatting with his student Kako, immersed in talks of writing whose voice carries a familiar ring, and outside the riddles, investigations upon a person of question, the meeting of the group outside of those dire circumstances. A narrator with a listener. These interludes provide a sort of backing context, a moment to explore the more personal sides of the characters we follow, get a feel for how they live their day-to-day, the joys they look forward to, and the potential pain lingering in their heart. But not even these are outside the grasp of the forest's influence. As much as you may, you can never quite grasp the string the forest is leading you by. All you can do is follow and hope you end up in a new riddle. While Forest follows a formula you can come to expect around the 3rd or 4th chapter, it is one that hardly stales from all I've mentioned before. You don't know exactly how it will go about following through, what beats it will strive to hit, or how the pieces of the puzzle will make their debut. The only thing that does become clear is the forlonging influence of the forest, as it digs its roots deeper into not only the world, but also into the Five psyche. Whether they find a deeper compassion through sharing struggle, or whether it fractures the rifts between them further, the relationship of the Five twist, conflagrate, and spiral. The mysteries within them are just as prevalent as those of the forest, their characterizations just as puzzling and strewn across the prose. A teacher who harbors forlorn regrets, unrequited or abusive loves, a sex worker who uses the Shinjuku nightlife as an escape from her inner reflection. Some fight to understand the forest, others to protect the city they hold dear, and those who fall under its influence. As much as they have to hold close ties to get through it all, their declining mental states continue to wear them down. Subtle hints build upon each other, breaking their personality with outrages far more frequent and their state of mind ever more puzzled. What's to say they aren't a part of the forest, doing its bidding under the assumption of breaking free? Paranoia sows seeds of distrust, though that questioning of every little thing is what will set truth from fiction. A masterful blend of all these mysteries and character development is seen best in Chapter 5, The Game. An event taking place upon the game board of Shinjuku with 4 teams competing with vastly different win conditions. The rules themselves unexplained, they continually grow more complex and threatening the more they play. Not only is it a game that will have you questioning every move the characters make, enthralled by how the game works and the limits it pushes them to, this chapter is where Forest begins to show its hand with brash veracity. In terms of an ordinary story, this is where you can say it goes off the rails, and in Forest's case, it's all the better for it. It ups the ante, showing how incomprehensible the rules of the forest and the roles each character play truly are, yet also shines more light on the ground they stand. There are so many choices to make that influence how the game plays out. They may seem small, almost inconsequential at first, but those choices build upon each other. It of course changes how the outcome is reached, and in turn will lead to different ways the characters digest the information or reveal hints of certain mysteries. Or, could just end up in a dead end where no one's happy. If you can believe it, the farther into the depths of the forest you go, the more unhinged the world becomes. For the forest is ever growing with an ever-tightening grip upon their lives. And that's the beauty of forest. Logically piecing everything together may prove quite a challenge, especially as you're finding your footing. But no matter how out there it can get, is intriguing, alluring. In between the lines of prose, there is this intuitive feeling that there is a hidden string tying it all together. And you could say finding it is the goal set by the story. What in this abundance of cross-cut and seemingly thrown together plot lines is it trying to tell? A battle of wits via the twists and turns of a written story that dives into the deeper psychological troubles of those holding the pen. The journey of the five dancing to the whims where fiction blends. The story of a lone girl whose tears flooded the land. It's not a story so self-centeredly stuck in its own flow, ever so subtly hinting to you, the reader, to think for yourself. You are prompted, tested, and encouraged to weave these elements into a form logical to you. It hides the truth behind literary elements the prose will only give nod to. Hardly will it elaborate, and only on a few fingers does light give hint to a greater hand. What part is muddled in unreliable narration? Where is the divide between fiction and reality? It's up to you to put the pieces together. But regardless of the forest whims and journey it takes our characters through, the message of Forest is a profound outlook between self-expression and its following. I will be going into the thematic grip and emotional hold of the story, so I want to put up a spoiler warning here. Forest's morals are one it wants you to piece together yourself. They are directly tied to the many mysteries, so hearing about them will give one too many hints away. If you are sold already, great. Please go play it. And come back after you've finished if you want. But if not, please skip to my closing thoughts here. A huge part of Forest is the relationship between author and reader, the author and their own works. It's an extremely thought-provoking display of personal expression regardless of the form it takes. Not despite all the conflating logic and mind-bending turns, but exactly because it's the perfect encapsulation of human imagination. Any unknown we see in the world is interpreted into logic threads to weave a world that makes sense to us. In many ways though, can that logic be mistaken or jumbled up with any other interpretive thread we make? Yet, to one or another, that mix-up may be completely sensible. There does exist a place where all those can exist without conflict, however. The imagination. Weaving that imagination into the logic of our world is how we get stories, fiction, compelling worlds that absorb us, characters we latch onto and pour emotions into as a way to not only explore the artist's heart, but our own as well. However, Forest also bears warning of a cautionary tale of those who become too wrapped up into their own imagination, and how that can drag them away from who they can or aspire to be. For the self can be just as far as a distant star. Emotions are a volatile thing when stretched too far, yet that same volatility when attuned with a clear mind is a lens to see adjacent worlds, give a broader perspective on the lives we lead, and in turn help us understand our own selves better. Art is a gateway into love. For others, the world, and just as important, for ourselves. Fiction is not its own separate dimension. It has its roots in all of us, influencing ourselves and the world in ways we may not always realize. It's vital to us as both logical and imaginative beings to help live the best life we can even when circumstances turn our world sour. Loss, depression, unattainable yearnings. Through fiction, through art, that sense of dread and despair can create comfort, tend to the innate saplings of hope to grow a tree atop and bloom into our own personal happiness. Forest is all about the creation and experiences fiction can have on us for both the good and bad. Its presentation may not be to everyone's liking, but I hope this video sheds some light and recognition for a title I have not seen hardly any discussion about, despite how out there of a work it is. It's one I've read twice now, and yet still feel that want to go and read it again. Which is why I want to do some theory crafting videos for this story, because there is so much potential for discussion about it with so little out there given its niche. So with that, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Later.